Real quickly, we have time for the next one. Turn to Matthew 14, verse 33 with me, because I want to show you the sixth one. And if you're tracking on your list, the sixth one is, we need to see Christ risen in glorified majesty. We're going back to the boat again, another walking on the water situation. And in 14, Jesus walks in the sea, starting in verse 22. And look what happens when Jesus gets there in verse 33. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." What did Jesus always do? Let's do our little thing over again. What did Jesus always do during his earthly ministry? He always did these huge events which caused everyone to go, "Ah!" And then after they went, "Ah!" they looked at him and they went, "That means you're God." And they started bowing down. And Jesus always did these big things to invite their worship. Okay? So that's what he did in his ministry. What did Jesus do here with John? John saw his face like the sun shining in its strength. And when John saw that, he crumbled in overwhelming, worshipful reverence and just fell down at Christ's feet. That was the desired response. That's what Jesus wanted. You see, all the way through his ministry, he moved all the fish in the Sea of Galilee into the net. And Peter says, "Get away from me. I'm a dirty man. I don't want to be near you. I know who you are." Jesus calmed the sea and they went, "Oh, God is in our boat." Jesus healed and raised to life and put eyes in and did all those other things. And you know what the people did? They were in wonder and worshiped him. So that's what he did. So John saw it and he worshiped. So there's a Sunday school lesson. How do we do that today? Well, look at Luke 24, okay? I want to show you, after the resurrection, the response when Jesus was gone that we should mirror. Luke 24, the end of the book, verse 52, almost the last verse. What does Jesus do now? Jesus, who always was inviting worship to those who loved him back then, who was inviting it on the island of Patmos 60 plus years after his resurrection, is still waiting for us to crumble in awesome, reverent worship before him. Look at verse 52 of Luke 24. This is after Jesus, well, I'll go back to 50. "And he led them out as far as Bethany. And he lifted up his hands and blessed them. And it came to pass, while he blessed them," he's still lifting up his hands and has this hands over them, blessing them. It says he parted from them and was carried up into heaven. So Jesus left. Can you imagine the last thing they saw is Jesus going up out of sight with his hands like this, lifted up, blessing them like this. Now, isn't that a detail that we don't think about very much? He's just saying, "I just want to pour out my blessing on you. I just want to give you everything you need, and I just want you to just know that that's doing. And I want the last thing you think about when you remember seeing me go is," and he's going off in the distance. Okay? That's another awesome moment. What response? He's carried up into heaven. Look at verse 52. "And they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem." They went back. They didn't go to some distant place. They went home. See, that's what worship does. It doesn't take us off to mountaintops where we live this unreal life, in a monastery somewhere. We go back into our real world, and look what it gives us. With great joy, and continually in the temple they were praising and blessing God. That's what worship does. That's why Jesus said, do you remember in his temptation, Matthew 4, "Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve"? We have it all mixed up in the 21st century. We serve God and hope we get around to worship. And most of the time we don't. And he said, no. Worship me first. Before you serve in the nursery, worship me. Then your service in nursery will be joyous and full of thanksgiving. Before you teach that class, worship me. And then when you teach that class, you'll be full of joy and thanksgiving. Worship me first before you give that gift. Because if you give the gift, then you'll think, wait a minute, I'm not sure they're doing what they want to do with that. What did they do with that gift? No, he says, worship me and then do that service. See, we get it mixed up. And that's why so often we miss the great joy, the continuous praising and the blessing of God. What Jesus wants is, he's waiting for us to lavish our loving worship on him. And I could give you lots more verses. Here's the last one. The last time that we see Jesus in Revelation, in this vision of John, it says he put his right hand on me. Because John was down there worshiping, but he was just totally without strength because it was just an overwhelming moment, and Jesus touched him and gave him strength. You see this happening all the time. Daniel, others, the Lord lifts them up. Ezekiel. Jesus was always touching those he loved with strength and help. Jesus was in the touching business 2,000 years ago. 60 years after the resurrection, putting his hands on John, touching him. Guess what Jesus is still doing? Can you connect it? He's touching those in time of need that ask for his help. Jesus wants to be needed. As a father, I love to give my children what they want. I ask them, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What would you like? I love to do things that please my wife. And I am frail and sinful and fallen and human. How much more will your heavenly Father give you good gifts? Jesus said. To those who seek, those who knock, those who are characterized by asking. Have you met the risen Christ? Do you see him as the compassionate Son of Man? Have you seen him as that forgiving, cleansing, and not condemning high priest? Have you seen him as that always seeing you and omnisciently knowing everything about you? Eyes of fire. Do you see those feet of brass as he is omnipotently coming with the strength, with the power to meet us in whatever storm we're in? Do you see that or hear that voice like the sound of many waters that has that omnipresence? He is always able to talk to us in any situation. Do you see him as he wants to be so full of majesty that we crumble before him and worship him? And then do you feel that touch of his hand? That's what the risen Christ wants to do, because he said, lo, just like I was, just like I am, I want to always be with you, always. I hope that this will be more than another nice little lesson. I hope that you will invite Jesus Christ into every part of your life and say, risen Christ, see me, come to me. I bow before you, touch me. I need you.